Chapter 1. Bricks, Beads and Bones. The Harappan Civilization. The Harappan Bricks, Beads and Bones. The Harappan Civilization. The Harappan seal, the Harappan seal is possibly the most most distinctive artifact of the Harappan and Indus Valley civilization, made of a stone called statite. Statite. Seals like this one often contain motifs, animal motifs, and signs from script that remains undeciphered, unknown. Yet, we know a great deal about the lives of the people who lived in the region from what they left behind, their houses, pots, ornaments, tools, and seals. In other words, from archaeological evidences. Let us see what we know about the Harappan civilization and how we know about it. We will explore how archaeological material is interpreted and how interpretations sometimes change. Of course, there are some aspects of the civilization that are as yet unknown and may even remain so. Terms, place, and times. The Indus The Indus Valley civilization is also called the Harappan culture. Archaeologists use the term culture for a group of objects Archaeologists use the term culture for a group of objects distinctive in style that are usually found together within a specific geographical area and period of time. In the case of the Harappan culture, these distinctive objects include seal, beads, weights, stone. I should be writing it down. Okay. In the case of Harappan culture, this distinctive of the Indus Valley civilization is also called the Harappan culture. Archaeologists use the term culture for a group of objects distinctive in style that are usually found together within a specific geographic area and a period of time. In the case of Harappan culture, these distinctive objects include seals, beads, weights, stone, blades. Yeah. And even baked bricks, sorry. Bricks. These objects were found from areas as far apart as Afghanistan, Jammu, Baluchistan, present-day Pakistan, and Gujarat. Afghanistan too. Oh. Named after Harappa, the first site where this unique culture was discovered. The cultivation is dated between uh, 2600 and 1900 BCE, before Common Era. There were earlier and later cultures, often called Early Harappan and Late Harappan, in the same area. The Harappan cultivation, sorry shit, the Harappan civilization is sometimes called the mature Harappan culture to distinguish it from these cultures. Okay. Beginning. There were several archaeological cultures in the region prior to the mature Harappan. These cultures were associated with distinctive potteries, evidence of agriculture and pastoralism, and some crafts settlements were generally small and there were virtually no large buildings. It appears that there was a break between the early Harappan and the Harappan civilization, evident from large-scale burning at some sites, as well as the abandonment of certain settlements. Okay. Substances strategies. If you look at map 1 and 2, you will notice that the mature Harappan culture developed in some of the areas occupied by the early Harappan cultures. These cultures also shared certain common elements, including subsistence strategies. The यार क्या मुसीबत है यार इतना गिर क्यों जा रहा है These cultures also shared the Harappans ate a wide range of plants and animal products, including fish. Archaeologists have been able to reconstruct dietary practices from finds of charred grains and seeds. These are studied by archaeobotanists botan- archaeobotanists who are specialists in ancient plant remains. Grains found at Harappan sites include wheat, barley, lentil, chickpea, and sesame. Millets are found from sites in Gujarat. Finds of rice are relatively rare. Animal bones found at Harappan sites include those of cattle, sheep, goat, buffalo, and pigs. Studies done by archaeologists or zooarchaeologists indicate that these animals were domesticated. Bones of wild species such as boar, deer, and gharial alligator are also found. We do not know whether the Harappan hunted these animals themselves or obtained meat from hunting communities. Bones of fish and fowl are also found. Archaeological technologies. While the prev- while the prevalence of agriculture is indicated by finds of grains, it is more difficult to reconstruct actual agricultural practices. Where seeds where seeds broadcast scattered on plowed lands. Excuse me. Representations on seals and terracotta sculpture indicate that the bull was known, and archaeologists extrapolate extrapolate अबे क्या बोलूं extrapolate from this that oxen were used for plowing. Okay. हाँ पहले महंगे ना जाए टूट ही ना जाए रे बाबा एक सेकंड में भी एग्रीकल्चरल टेक्नोलॉजीज हो गया था हाँ moreover terracotta models of the moreover terracotta models of the plow have been found at sites in Cholistan, and at Banawali, Haryana. Archaeologists have also found evidence of a ploughed field at Kalibanga, Rajasthan, associ- associated with early Harappan levels. See page 20? Picture 20, sorry. The the field had two sets of fur- furrows at right angles to each other, suggesting that two different crops were grown together. Uh, 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 एक second. Archaeologists have also tried to identify the tools used for harvesting. Did the Harappans use stone blades set in wooden handles or did they use metal tools? Most Harappan sites are located in semi-arid lands. Most Harappan sites are located in semi-arid lands where irrigation was probably required for agriculture. Traces of canals have been found at the Harappan site at Shotugai in Afghanistan, but not in Punjab or Sindh. It's possible that it's possible that ancient canals, अबे यार, ancient canals silted up long ago. It's also likely that water drawn from wells was used for irrigation. Besides, water reservoirs found in Dhol- Dholavira, Gujarat, may have been used to store water for agriculture. Besides, water reservoirs found in Dholavira, Gujarat, may have been used to store water for agriculture. Mohenjo-daro, a planned urban center. Perhaps the most unique feature of the Harappan civilization was the development of urban centers. Let us look at one such center, Mohenjo-daro, more closely. Although Mohenjo-daro is the most well-known site, the first site to be discovered was Harappa. The uh, The settlement is divided into two sections, one smaller but higher, and the other much larger but lower. Okay. Archaeologists will collect. Archaeologists, Archaeologists designate these as the cathedral and the lower town respectively. Cathedral, sorry, and the lower town. The cathedral owes the cathedral owes its height to the fact that buildings were constructed on mud brick platform. It was walled, which meant that it was physically separated from the lower town. The lower town was also walled. Several buildings were built on platforms which served as foundations. It has been calculated that if one laborer moved roughly a cubic meter of earth daily just to put the foundation in place, it would have required 4 million persons, person, da, person days. 4 million person days. In other words, mobilizing labor on a very large scale. Consider some consider something else. Once Consider something else. Once the platforms were in place, all building activities within the city was restricted to a fixed area on the platforms. So it so it seems that the settlement was first planned and then implemented accordingly. The set. Okay. Other sign of pla- Other signs of planning include bricks which, whether sun-dried or baked, were of a standardized ratio, where the length and breadth were 4 times and twice the height respectively. 4 times the length, twice height. हाइट से दुगना है ब्रेथ, हाइट से 4. Okay. Such bricks were used where such bricks were used at all Harappan settlements. Laying out drains. One of the most distinctive features of Harappan cities was the carefully planned drainage system. Okay, if you look at the plan of the lower town, you will notice that roads and streets were laid out along an approximate grid pattern. Intersecting at right angles, it seems that streets with drains were laid out first and then houses built along them. If domestic wastewater had to flow into the street drains, every house needed to have at least one wall along a street. That's right. While most urban settlements have a small high western part and a larger lower eastern section, there are variations as size such as Dholavira and Lothal, Gujarat. The entire settlement was fortified, and sections within the town were also separated by walls. Walls. The cathedral within Lothal was not walled off but was built at a height. Domestic agriculture. The lower town at Mohenjo-daro provides examples of residential buildings. Many were centered on a courtyard with rooms on all sides. Okay, yeah, got it. With rooms on all sides. Many were centered on a courtyard with rooms on all sides. The courtyard, sorry, the courtyard was probably the center of the courtyard was probably the center of activities such as cooking, weaving, cooking and weaving, particularly during hot and dry weathers. Hot, particular, particularly during hot and dry weather. What is also interesting is in what is also interesting is that an apparent concern for privacy. There are no windows in the walls along the ground level. Besides, the main entrance door does not direct does not give a direct view of the interior or the courtyard. Very good. Every house had its own bathroom paved with bricks, with drains connected through the walls to the street drains. Some houses have remains of staircase to reach a second story or the roof. Many houses had wells, often in a room that could be reached from the outside and perhaps used by passers-by. Scholars have estimated that the total number of wells in Mohenjo-daro was about 700. Oh, wow. This is the entrance, I guess. An entrance. Okay, the cathedral. It is on the cathedral that we find evidence of structures that were probably used for special public purposes. These include the warehouse, a massive structure of which the lower brick portion remains, while the upper portion, probably of wood, decayed long ago, and the Great Bath. The Great Bath was well, the Great Bath was a rec- large rectangular tank, in a courtyard surrounded by corridor on all four sizes. Sizes now, all four sides. There were two flights of steps on north and south leading into the tank. North and south leading into the tank, which was made watertight by setting bricks on edge and using a mortar of क्या बोल रहे यार which was made watertight मैंने okay समझिए by setting bricks on edge and using a mortar of gypsum okay समझ गई. There were rooms on three sides, in one of which was a large well. Water from the tank flowed into a huge drain across a lane. To the north, they to the north lay a smaller building with 8 bathrooms, 4 on each side of a courtyard, with drains from each bathroom connecting to the drain that ran along the corridor. The uniqueness of the structure as well as the context in which it was found, the cathedral, with several distinctive buildings, has led scholars to suggest that it was meant for some kind of special ritual bath. Topic number 4, tracking social differences. Burials. Archaeologists generally use certain strategies to find out whether there were social or economic differences amongst people living within a particular culture. These include studying burials. These include studying burials. You are you are probably familiar with the massive pyramid of Egypt, some of which were contemporaneous with the Harappan civilization. Many of these pyramids were royal burials, where enormous quantities of wealth was buried. At burial at burials in Harappan sites, the dead were generally laid in pits. At burials in Harappan sites, the dead were generally laid in pits. Sometimes there were differences in the way the burial pit was made. In some instances, the hollowed out space was lined with bricks. Could these burials be an indication of social differences? We are not sure. Some graves contain pottery and ornaments, perhaps indicating a belief that these could be used in the afterlife. Jewelry has been found in burials of both men and women. पता कैसे चलता है भाई? Seriously. In fact, in the excavations at the cemetery the Harappa in the mid 1980s, yeah. In fact, the excavation at the cemetery in Harappan in the mid 1980s, an ornament cons- consisting of three shell rings, a jasper, a kind of semi-precious stone, beaded, and hundreds of microbeads were found near the skull of a male. In some instances, the dead were buried with copper mine. The dead was buried with copper mirror. This is a copper mirror. Hey God. Okay, but on but on the whole, it appears that the Harappans did not believe in burying precious things with the dead. Looking for luxuries. Another strategy to find social differences is to study artifacts, which archaeologists broadly classify as utilitarian and luxuries. The first category includes objects of daily use made fairly easily out of ordinary materials such as stone or clay. These include cutlery, pottery, needles, flesh rubber, body scrubs, flesh rubber, etc., and are usually found distributed throughout settlements. Archaeologists assume objects were luxury if they are rare or made from costly, non-local materials or with complicated technologies. There's little pots of faience, a material made of ground sand or silica mixed with color or and a gum and then fired. This is the pot of a faience. Fancy? No, a faience pot. This is the spelling. उधार में जाए. What were probably considered precious because they were difficult to make. The situation became more complicated when we find what seemed to be what seems to be article of daily use, such as spindle spindle wheels made of rare materials such as fans. Do we classify these as utilitarian or luxuries? If we study the distribution of such artifacts, we find that rare objects made of valuable materials are generally concentrated in large settlements like Mohenjo-daro and Harappa, and are rarely found in the smaller settlements. For example, miniature pots of faience perhaps use a perhaps used as perfume bottles, are found mostly in Mohenjo-daro and Harappa, and there are none from small settlements like Kalibanga. Kalibanga. Gold too was rare, and as at present probably precious. Uh, all the gold jewels found at Harappan sites was recovered from hoarders. अरे क्या है गधे? तेरी की दूर क्या है? हद है. If we study the if we study the if we study the distribution of such artifacts, we find that rare objects made of valuable materials are generally concentrated in large settlements like Mohenjo-daro and Harappa and rarely found in अच्छा ये तो हो गया था अच्छा ये हो गया था finding out about finding out about craft production loca- located अच्छा ये तो this is a tiny अच्छा Chanhudaro. Chanhudaro is a tiny settlement, less than 7 hectares. Okay, as compared to Mohenjo-daro, compared sorry shit क्या बोल रही हूँ मैं as compared to Mohenjo-daro 125 hectares, almost exclusively devoted to craft production, including bead making, shell cutting, metalworking, seal making, and weight making. The variety. बाप रे स्वेटर बन करना पड़ेगा लगता है. The variety. The variety of materials used to make beads is remarkable. Stones like carnelian or a beautiful red color, jasper, crystal, quartz, and statite. 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 Met- क्या पढ़ रही थी मैं भूल गई. Metals like jasper, crystal, quartz, and statite. Metals like copper, bronze, and gold, and shell faience and terracotta or burnt clay. Okay. Some beads were made of two or more stones cemented together. Some of stones Oh. अभी कमेंट मत कर प्लीज़, मेरे को पढ़ने का टाइम नहीं है, मेरे को ये पढ़ना है वो नहीं. नो मोर कमेंट्स प्लीज़. दो लोग हैं, दोनों को बोल रही हूँ नो मोर कमेंट्स. Some beads were made of two or more stones cemented together. Some of stones, some of stone with. Yeah. Some beads were made of two or more stones cemented together. Some of stone with gold caps. Some of stone with gold caps. The shapes were numerous: disc-shaped, cylindrical, spherical, barrel-shaped, segmented. Some were decorated by increasing or incising or painting, and some had designs attached onto it, etched onto it, etched by itself. Pronunciation नहीं हो रहा मेरे से. Onto them. Techniques for making bead differed accordingly to the material. Okay. Statites are very soft stone, was easily worked. Some beads were molded out of a paste made with statite powder. This permitted making a variety of shapes. Unlike the geometrical forms made out of harder stones. How the statite microbead was made remains a puzzle for archaeologists studying ancient technology. Archaeologists' experiments have revealed that the red color of cornelian was obtained by firing the yellowish raw material and bead at various stages of production. Okay. Nodules were chipped into rough shapes and then finely flaked into the final form. Grinding, polishing, and drilling completed the process. Specialized drills have been found at Chanudaru, Lothal, and more recently at Dholavira. If you locate Nageshwar and Balakot on map 1, you will notice that both settlements are near the coast. These were specialized centers for making shell objects, including bangles, ladles, and inlay, which were taken to other settlements. Similarly, it is likely that finished products such as beads from Chanudaru and Lothal were taken to the large urban centers such as Mohenjo-daro and Harappa. identify centers of production. In, uh, in order to identify center of craft production, archaeologists usually look for the following: raw materials such as stone, nodules, coal shells, copper ore tools, unfinished objects, rejects, and waste materials. In fact, waste is one of the best indicators of craft work, not cart work. For instance, if shell or stone is cut to make objects, then pieces of these materials will be discarded as waste at the place of production. Sometimes large Sometimes larger waste pieces were used up to make smaller objects, but minuscule bits were usually left in the work area. These traces suggest that apart from small specialized centers, craft production was also undertaken in large cities such as Mosul and Harappa. Copper and bronze vessels. Okay, that's it for today. Goodbye. अगर टाइम मिला तो कल से वापस आऊँगी स्ट्रीम करने. मंडे से एग्ज़ाम है मेरा. बाय बाय.